met this 6-year-old child with this emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
Welcome back to SledgeHammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I am joined by Jeff Whitmire. Am I saying that right?
You are saying that right. That was okay. Perfect. Yes.
How you doing today, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm great. How are you doing?
No problem, man. It's an honor to have you here. For those that don't know, Jeff is a singer-songwriter. He makes, as he likes to call it, nerdy comedy music, which he encompasses everything of parodies from Star Wars to horror movies to comic. I was gonna say DC and Marvel, but I don't want to get that specific. But comic book, superhero movies.
It does get that specific, actually.
I just didn't want to put that out there for you. Also, everything in between. He's been the 2-time nominee for Parody of the Year. That's got to be a pretty cool feeling, man. What was that like to get that nomination for Parody of the Year?
It was awesome, considering I've only been doing this really for 3 years. I accidentally stumbled into a YouTube channel about 3 years ago. I was just doing a couple parodies about a website that collapsed, and got all this reaction to it. And before I knew it, I had a YouTube channel. So my wife was said to me, "You should do a YouTube channel." And I said, "I don't know where to start." She's like, anyway, I'm going to go watch this Jason Momoa movie tonight, and you figure it out," because she's obsessed with Jason Momoa. And I had just heard "Hey There, Delilah" on the radio, and I came up with "Hey There, Momoa," which, is kind of my baby. It's the one that started it all.
Sure.
And within a few months, I got involved with like the funny music community and everything. And that song was nominated for Parody of the Year. And I was like, wow, and I got to go and perform it live, which was awesome. And then this year again, I was listening, and I didn't know what I'd put a lot of stuff out, but there's a lot of good parody coming out right now, a lot of good comedy music. So when the nominations were announced, and my song "Suddenly Star Wars," which is a parody of "Suddenly Seymour" from Little Shop of Horrors, and I did it in defense of Last Jedi, because I actually do like Last Jedi. That one got nominated. It's just an awesome feeling, because I've always loved writing music. I've been writing music for 44 years, and just really for the past 3 years making it public. So to get recognition and to get that kind of love and feedback from it has been
Sure.
Awesome. It's been amazing.
And if you guys want to check it out, I have all his links down here in the description. So make sure you're checking it out. And I got to side with your wife. I'm also obsessed with Jason Momoa, and I'm 100% straight. So your wife has
me
great
too,
taste,
honestly.
as we can see, so.
I would actually, I've always
I
said I would love to sing that song to him live someday. That would be my dream right there.
Right. Well, man, I think it's amazing. Like I said, you guys, make sure you're clicking the links down here. Check out Hey There, Momoa. Check out Suddenly Star Wars and some of the other things he's been up to. Yeah, so make sure you guys, like I said, click the links down here. Check out everything that he's got going on. But before we do that, let's go back into what started horror for you, my friend, where horror really got its origins at. And for your first horror movie was?
Halloween. The 70s Halloween. Yep, the 70s Halloween.
So how old were you the first time you had seen it?
I was young. I think I was like 7 or 8 years old. This was in the early 80s. I was born 76. So it was kind of weird. For Thanksgiving, my family, who I can't see them doing this now, my parents, but for Thanksgiving, we'd have our Thanksgiving dinner, and my cousin would run out and go to the video store and grab some movies. And every once in a while, a horror movie would sneak in there. And the first one that ever came back was Halloween, the 78, John Carpenter Halloween. And I think I probably had caught some stuff before then. I've loved horror ever since I was a kid, but
Sure.
That was the first solid one I really remember seeing that sticks with me. And I had to be about 7 years old. And I've been a fan of horror ever since then for almost 40 years. So
and that's such a great movie to start with, because Halloween really did, I think just my opinion, I think that Psycho really started the slasher genre. I think that was really where it started, but I think that Halloween was kind of that jump shot, to really push it up over the edge. You had a couple slashers in between Psycho and Halloween, obviously, but I think going from Psycho, I think Halloween would be the next big slasher that we really had. And without
I think it became the iconic one. Yeah.
Yeah. I think without that, we wouldn't have had Friday the 13th. And that's just, butterfly effect. What wouldn't we have today if it wasn't for Halloween? And you, as a music fan and someone that writes music and performs music, you understand how important a score is to a film as well.
Oh, yeah.
And the Halloween score is one of those that people that have never seen Halloween still know the piano lick.
You know that Carpenter theme. Yes.
Yes. So and that's how important this theme is. And that's how important the music is to this film. And in a film full of iconic scenes, right. Which scene do you think affected you the most?
There were two. I would have to say there are two. The one that sticks out in my head when I talk about Halloween, first of all, I love the entire final chase scene, the final girl scene with Jamie Lee. That whole sequence is just the epitome of what tension should be. But ultimately the sequence, I think, where you think it's finally maybe possibly over, and she tells the kids to get running, and she's in the hallway, and that Michael Myers sit up and behind her, such an amazing moment, such an iconic sequence, and that one definitely. But I think when I really look back and I think about it, because I think most horror fans have seen Halloween at this point, so we know what happens. We know the story. But in 1978, or when you're a 7-year-old watching it, maybe a few years later, that opening I think is so gutsy, because you have the POV shot of what, that whole, obviously something bad is going to happen, or something dark is happening here. The POV, the hand taking out the knife, the stalking up the stairs. And then to have it turn out to be the kid.
Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, there have been evil kid movies before Halloween, Bad Seed and things like that, but Village of the Damned, the original, but which Carpenter also remade. But but just that reveal that this demonic evil person that you've just been following is a kid, I think is still one of the coolest moments in horror, because it was very brave, I think.
Yeah. Well, and just how gruesome that kill was for the kid, and how he's looking up at the knife,
right,
looking back down,
and you're looking through the mask holes with him. You are basically there. You're the killer, and that's intense.
And I think it's safe to say Scream wouldn't have had its open had it not been for this opening of Halloween.
Definitely.
I think that this is such an iconic. Let's kill off someone right at the very beginning to really set the mood of what's going to happen throughout the movie.
Right.
So when you think of Halloween, someone brings up Halloween 1978. What's the first thing that pops into your head?
I would have to say Michael Myers standing in the clothing lines. I always see that kind of, I don't know if that's the first time you really see the mask, but
right.
It's definitely that moment where a lot of people know that Michael Myers was called the Shadow in the script, and that's what he was. He was basically Jamie Lee's Laurie's shadow during the first half of that movie, during the first act. And that scene just really sets it for me. It's that uncomfortable feeling that for whatever reason, you are being watched, you are being stalked right now. And even though they don't quite give the backstory like Rob Zombie would later in his remake, or they do in Halloween 2, the original, there's no rationale for why this is happening. Why are you outside the school? Why are you outside the house? Why are you outside the hedge? And but I think that scene really is the one that first triggers it for me. That feeling that something is watching you all the time.
It's so amazing to see that too. And what's funny to me is how the stalker type of slasher became so popular thanks to a large part in this movie. This isn't a guy that's just gonna come up and get you like Freddy Krueger, just to get you. And obviously Freddy came later, but this was really the instance of I'm gonna stalk you. This was psychological first before it was just stabby. It was very much psychological thriller. So, and psychological horror. So
and the jump scares leading up to it too. I mean, there was definitely enough of the fake jump scares to kind of sell that moment too. But yeah.
So we talked about which scene affected you the most, but I want to know, what is your favorite scene from the movie?
What is my favorite scene from Halloween?
See, for me, I always go back to this one. I love it.
The knife in the door. I don't know.
There, And she's like, it was the boogeyman. And Dr. Loomis is like, yes, I believe it was. And she does not say, was that the boogeyman, which is so often misconstrued.
It gets misquoted.
Yeah, she says, it was the boogeyman. And then he says, yes, I think it was. I just always go back to that scene, or even Loomis's speech. You guys just heard it during the intro, but when he's like, I saw the devil's eyes, the blackest eyes. Like, that is so awesome. Such a great, I love Dr. Loomis. I think he's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad he stuck around too. I'm glad we got it. And that's something I will say, and then we can talk about that. But I mean, my Halloween love didn't stop at 1. I'm definitely a sucker for the series. But yeah, there's so much. The knife in the door, the nod. But I think I have to agree with you. The ending, the fall, the shooting, Jamie's response to that, Laurie's response to that, and then the theme kicks in, the breathing gets bigger and bigger, and you see the shots of every place that Michael's been. Man, that's every time that just gets to me. Never gets old. I've seen this movie so many times, and that never gets old watching that. And you talked about too, like the theme too, but even not just the theme, but the incidental music.
The score in this movie is phenomenal all the way through.
But yeah, I think if I had to pick one, I would have to say that ending with that was the boogeyman, and then the peel back, and then all the establishing shots with the getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's
So let's go. If we're talking slashers, we got to talk kills. And I want to know what, I hate saying favorite because that makes it seem so dark, but which kill stuck with you the most from Halloween?
I think it's okay to say favorite kills because I'm a big Final Destination fan, and we all say that. But so my favorite kill from Halloween, it would have to, that has to be the door. That has to be the knife through the door. And because we are a dark, twisted bunch, aren't we, horror fans? But like the nicest people I've ever met, but we're like, oh, I love that. But the knife through the door, the hang, and then that just moment of, I always want to say, I always think of him as like a dog at that moment, which I hate to say because, and he kills the dog too. But that look, spoiler by the way, if you've never seen Halloween 78, but
if you haven't seen Halloween 78, I don't think you would have clicked on this video anyway. I think
if you're watching this channel, you haven't. But
right. So I got a couple more questions for you, but one that I really want to ask you. Drifting away from Halloween 1978 a little bit here. We're talking about Halloween, and you talked about how you are a fan of the franchise. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite film in the Halloween franchise?
It's one is my favorite in the franchise. But I love 3. Am I allowed to? Yeah.
That is my favorite. I think
I love
said
3
this numerous times. I am going to eventually remake Halloween 3 Season of the Witch under just the name Season of the Witch. I think that if this movie would have came out as a standalone film called Season of the Witch, I think we would have got sequels. I think it would have been much more, much better received, because what a lot of people don't know is when John Carpenter wrote Halloween, it was supposed to be an anthology, and it was supposed to be a different movie every year. And obviously people rejected it once you get to, I think if Season of the Witch would have been Halloween 2, it might have even been better received. But once you get, the Halloween, then Halloween 2 with Mike, and then you split it off into Halloween 3, people were just kind of like, what the hell is this? They're waiting the whole time for Michael Myers, and it never happens. So then that's obviously the studio pushed for Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers. And that movie made money just on the title.
Yeah.
Granted, I think it is one of the better films in the franchise.
I like 4.
If we're talking about just straight Halloweens, I still got to go 78 as well, but 4 would be my second favorite of the franchise. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna backtrack there a little bit. I'm gonna say 78 is my favorite, and my second favorite actually is H2O. I'm a huge Halloween H2O fan. I think that one is absolutely brilliant.
Steve Miner's amazing. He needed to direct one, and he does so good. I actually do. I mean, it's guilty pleasure, but I actually put in Resurrection from time to time. And I know the B for Resurrection, but I mean, there's moments in there that I do enjoy. But for me, I mean, the 4 would have to be, if I had to pick, it would be 1, 3, 4, and H2O definitely. Mm-hmm. And the new one that we just got. So, but
I did like the new one. Yeah. I want to ask your opinion on. There's 3 more questions I got for you. Your opinions on the Rob Zombie Halloweens.
Okay. I like Rob Zombie, but I have to be in the right mood for him. His kind of gritty, dark view of the world. I think I have to be in the right mood for it. I'm not always there. And I do love Thousand Corpses. I love Devil's Rejects. But so with Halloween, I think there's a lot of stuff that I did enjoy in the first one, but I don't know if I needed that much backstory.
Right.
I think a balance would have been nice. I mean, the first one gives us the POV. Michael does the deed. He kills his sister, escapes from the asylum. We get a little bit from, like you mentioned, Loomis's flashbacks, his stories. I think Rob Zombie's version might have gone a little bit too extreme, because I feel like it top loaded the backstory, and then boom, we were back in essentially what was Halloween again. So I do like that he did strive to give us a little more of Mikey as a kid and what might have precipitated that. And I do my favorite scene in Halloween, the Rob Zombie version, sorry, is the orderly, when he does I'm drawing a blank on his name now, but the one that says, Mikey, I was nice to you.
Oh, Machete.
Yes. So I think, I just drew a blank there, but I think I like that because it gives us that moment where it shows that Mikey doesn't care. He was at that point just pure evil, and for whatever reason, I know 6 tried to explain why he was so evil, and then they pretty much said, let's forget about 6. Moving on from that, but
I didn't mind. If you're talking about Rob Zombie's Halloween and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I love Tyler Mane as Michael Myers. I thought he was brutal. I thought he was brilliant. I was not a fan of 2 at all.
The
story,
breathing, the grunting, that was.
Or even he talked in it. Like, he straight up talked when he took the mask off and he was like, die, and he stabbed him. You know, and then like the ghost mom, like, look, if Michael was seeing ghost mom, that's one thing. But for, the ghost mom to be holding back Laurie, like, I don't know. That was way too much for me.
Because again, Rob Zombie can't do a movie without putting his wife into it, first of all.
I'm different where, look, I'll never bash anybody. That's not who I am. If you're making art, good for you. Somebody's enjoying it. I've never been a Rob Zombie movie fan. His movies have never done it for me. I'm just not a fan of sexual assault, rape. Like I said, the Rob Zombie's Halloween, I can't watch the director's cut. It has to be the theatrical cut.
No.
Yeah, the rape scene in there's way too much for me. I'm out at that point. I can't do it. It physically makes me sick to watch. So we talked about Halloween 1978. It's a brilliant movie. We talked about your feelings of the franchise. We talked about your feelings of the Rob Zombie remakes. Now I'm going to go way off the tracks here, and I'm going to go scream on you, my friend. What's your favorite scary movie? What is your favorite horror movie?
My favorite horror movie, that's tricky. My favorite horror movie is probably Rebecca, the Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Okay.
The 38 one. If we're calling that a horror movie. My favorite horror movie since 2003 was easily 28 Days Later, without a doubt.
Okay.
I'm a huge zombie fan. Zombies, not Rob Zombie, zombie fan. I love zombie films. My favorite genre is Asian horror. So The Eye is up there for me, the original Pang Brothers Eye. But 28 Days Later for the longest time was. It has been superseded, and I know it's weird to say that my favorite movie is so recent, but it really is, and it's Train to Busan.
Oh, very nice.
That's
a very, very good movie.
I think it's just one of the quintessential ways to say, you know what, we've been doing the same thing over and over and over again, but that movie feels like it is brand new.
Right.
And the emotional impact that it has and the way that it delivers on so many storylines.
Such a heartbreaking movie.
I loved every one of those characters by the end of that movie, except for the ones you weren't supposed to love. But you were talking about
no, you're talking about 28 Days Later. 28 Days Later to me has one of the most heartbreaking scenes of all time in any movie, not The Mist or the end of Night of the Living Dead. But when you have the dad and he survived all this shit. He's gone through everything.
The blood drop?
He gets infected by a blood drop to the eye. You know what I mean? Like, that's so devastating to me.
The way he reacts to it, the way he tells Hannah, he's like to stay, like, oh my God, he just realizes it. But see, as much as I love that, the end of Train to Busan where he's turning and he starts remembering his daughter and you see the tears. I have watched this movie 3 times now, and I am a baby every single time. I'm just like, and I have daughters, and I'm like, oh my God.
That's what I was just going to say. The difference of watching it as a kid and watching it as a parent are 2 completely different feelings that you get. So my friend, we always end these with the same question. We're going back to Halloween 1978, and we're going to go on a skull count. We're ranking Halloween 1978, not on production, not on how good it did at the box office, but how the movie affected you. 0 skulls being the worst, 5 skulls being the best. My friend, what is your ranking of Halloween 1978?
On how it impacted me? It's a 5.
Yep. 5.
It's a 5. It made me a horror fan, and I love being a horror fan.
And that's so cool, man. Well, what a way to start. Like I said, man, it's how my first horror movie was House. And
which I just watched those the other day again. I was in a mood for I watched 1 and 2 and
they have such a special place in my heart. And I think that our first horror movie, it's not always our favorite. Like I talked to some people, and one guy I know, his first horror movie was Nightmare on Elm Street. And afterwards, he wouldn't even sleep with sheets on his bed because of the rod scene. The Jesus Garcia scene in the prison. He wouldn't sleep with sheets because it scared him that bad. So our first horror movie isn't always something that we love and it sticks with us. That's why I love having these conversations. But before I let you go, Jeff, I do want to remind everybody, click the links down here in the description. Make sure you're checking him out. Give him some love. Throw him a subscription on YouTube. Follow him on social media for all his updates. We always go back and forth on Twitter. It's a whole lot of fun to talk to him. Don't go anywhere, Jeff. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, keep talking horror. Stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.
Have a good night, everyone.